Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Convert on Shopify. My name is Pancho Mendiola, and today I'm gonna really recommend that you grab a piece of paper, that you grab a pen or markers or whatever, however you work your iPad, because there's some super valuable information. But not only valuable information, there's a framework. Okay, so Trina was able to very eloquently talk about why, first of all, why demand generation is very important, why we as brands have now the responsibility to become expert to our users. And she did it in a way that there's actually a path that you can follow as a brand with actionable stuff. So really take my word for it. Grab a piece of paper. We are still going to share, if you follow us on LinkedIn and in Instagram, we're still going to share, let's say, a graphic version of this framework. And you can tell I'm really excited about it because it really, like for me, I'm doing e-commerce for 10 years now. And this type of information gets me excited because I can apply it to my current brands or my current projects. So I think that's going to be the same for you. So grab a piece of paper, grab a couple of markers, and write everything that you can down. It's really great information and actionable stuff. And don't forget, you can also follow us on these other social media because we are also going to share this framework there. So let's begin. I don't want to spoil it anymore. Let's begin with this episode. Trina, again, thank you very much for being back here in the podcast. So in the last one, we had a very interesting and I think in-depth conversation. And one of the I think topics that I wanted to dig a little more deep into was you said two things that for me are very important. The first one is that as a brand, if you want to do brand building, you have to become an expert to your buyer. Okay, so you have to give them enough information so they can regard you as an expert and reach out to you for their learning process, or maybe to get entertained. How can we do this, and why is this so important?
Okay, so why is this so important? Let's talk about that first.
Yep.
Let's assume like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, let's say 10 years ago, there weren't this many brands around, number one. Number two, even if the brands were around, they weren't very hunky-dory about sharing the content and the information that they had. So basically, brands were the gatekeepers, right? Like, if a particular brand gave you some crumbs of information, that was awesome because you didn't really have that information anywhere else. You didn't have it in your phone, you didn't have it on your Apple Watch, you didn't have it at your fingertips. So if anybody gave you some information, like if they revealed their manufacturing process, if they told you exactly what went into the products, this is for obviously B2C, DTC, if they revealed these things, that was kind of like a USP for the brand. Like it was a big help and a leg up for the buyers. But if you talk about things right now, with the state of the buying landscape or the buyer's landscape and the awareness that buyers are in, that no longer cuts it. So anybody can find information, anybody can actually dig in and find all of the claims that you've made that aren't true as well. So people are going to be fact checking you instead of it being the other way around. So the easiest way, I'm calling it easy, just take that with a pinch of salt. I should say the most accessible way brands have of kind of getting across that is to help people make better decisions. That is what everything boils down to. If you help people make better decisions, people will buy from you. If you make them feel good about their decisions because they made the right decision, people will buy from you. And the most accessible way that I have personally found that brands have of doing that, apart from obviously you to catch their attention, you have to be entertaining. That is like the top of the demand gen equation. You first have to be memorable for any of the rest of the stuff to happen. I mean, like no matter how much we fall in love with the personality of a person, at first glance they appear attractive to us. That's why we start dating them. And that is why, you have to be memorable for your buyers to start dating you, and then they will find out like you're the best partner ever. So basically, apart from the memorability and everything, what you need at the core of your relationship with your buyer, apart from trust, obviously don't break their trust, that's table stakes, is to have expertise, is for them to understand that you have done this many, many times. You have done all of the research that they didn't have to, and you have come up with an offer that alleviates their pain and makes you feel good about yourself, and bonus points if it also makes you look good to the other people in your circle. So if you can close this loop, then selling becomes relatively easier.
Awesome. Yeah. So just to dig a little bit deeper there, you mentioned that first of all, brands didn't used to do this, right? They withheld information.
Right.
And right now information is out there. I mean, I can see it with my kids. So I have a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old. And when they ask me something like, "Hey, Dad, like what is this, or what does this mean?" And I say I know, I say I don't know. They look at me like, "Well, Google it." Like like what are you talking about? Just Google it, right? So it's
Right.
already in their system that information is just out there, some clicks away. So now
Right.
brands, they if they don't share information, they are actually falling behind from other brands, right?
Yeah, like
And
information is now table stakes. It's no longer the information economy or whatever you want to call it. Now you
yes.
have to be the expert. So it's the expertise part of the thing that can, like go in there and save the day for brands.
Awesome. Yeah. And like you said, there's already information there, and your job as a brand is not create it, but maybe just like arrange it and make it easy for the people to find it, and also to understand it, right? I have an example. So I have a nootropics brand. So it's like supplements for your brain.
Right. That's,
And
yeah, very, very
uh,
popular these days.
yeah, exactly. So I was really surprised. So we did some screen recording or heat mapping, and we realized that so we had maybe like 20 or 30 articles, like
Mm-hmm.
this like super technical, like we got it from these like medical sites
Right.
talking about these ingredients that we use. And I was like, nobody's gonna read this, come on. But we're like, okay, it's our responsibility, like you say, it's our
Right.
responsibility to have this information at hand for our potential customers. And to our surprise, they nobody read it, but they arrived to that site and they made sure that we have that information, so you can see
Exactly.
how they landed there, and they're like, okay, they have it, they have serious information, let's go back shopping. I believe them, right? So
Right. Right.
okay, okay,
Yeah, so
okay.
any claim that you make, so what you do with all of these dense information is like, go this way. It is your responsibility. You go through all of the dense information, you parse that information, you find out how, what is the basis of the claim that you are making. You're making a certain claim, right? Your product is rather making a certain claim, and you need all of this information to kind of back that claim up. So you kind of parse all of that information, you take the gist of it, and you use that as a bolster or as a foundation for your claim. You never kind of expect people to go in there and read all of that, or you don't expect people to even for you to spout that, because that would be boring. They don't want that either. You have to find a way of weaving that expertise into the claims that you make, and also supporting any existing claims that you are making with that information. That information should be the foundation on which all of your claims and all of your USP stands. So you have a tenable kind of, I call it a tenable, let's say, argument to for you to legitimately say that this is better, this actually works. And obviously don't go into the discussion of this being objectively better. That is not true. Nobody
Yeah.
believes this is objectively better. This is objectively better for this specific reason. Like, you have to tell them with specificity, this is the problem you have and this is objectively better.
Yeah, so the era of, these infomercials, 10 times better, 10 times faster, 10 times, just because I say so, that's gone, because now we have the
Yeah,
ability to actually do the research and find the information and research the claims, right?
right.
um, and the way that you organize this information, for example, what we have done is that we go from broad or generic, or let's say commercial. So you start with a
Mm-hmm.
paragraph, a very commercial paragraph stating what's in it for the user, right? So this is
Right.
what you expect to gain by buying this or consuming this or wearing this or whatever. And then you go deeper and deeper and deeper. So what we do is, in our site, we first have this like elevator pitch paragraph, and then further down we have the list of ingredients and then how to use it. And then if you click on the ingredients, then you go to the medical,
Right.
articles, and
Absolutely.
and people will, if they want to, they'll find their way. Maybe some people will do just fine with your commercial paragraph, but some of them will actually go just to check that you are in order, right? Uh,
Yeah, I call it speak to the seven sins, back it up with the brain. Like this is kind of like the
okay,
framework that I have. So
I like
everybody
it.
knows about the seven sins, right?
Yes,
Like
of
it's
course.
super simple. Everybody knows that. And the funny thing is that if you pick up a particular, you just have to identify the sin of your buyer persona. Every buyer persona has a sin. So you have to identify that sin. For example, in certain makeup companies, we have found that it is vanity. Obviously, it is
Of
makeup, it is
course.
vanity, but in certain cases it is actually also sloth. Like people don't want to go in there and spend so much of time and effort. If their money is not a factor, they don't want to spend that much of time and effort in getting their brows done. And it's like it's the number one problem that they have. I don't want to spend time on my brows, yet I want my brows to be amazing. So basically it may seem like vanity, but at the core of it, it's actually sloth. They're lazy, they want a quick fix. So you have to identify the seven sins of your buyer's persona, like which sin is the core sin of your buyer's persona, and then you kind of like speak to their brain. You titillate them with that. Like if you think of your entire marketing as an email, the subject line is that sin. Like you titillate that particular sin for them, and then when they open it up, you support that with the expertise that you have kind of accrued. It is you're speaking to their brain now.
Oh my God, that's right there. I think it's maybe the most valuable tip we have gotten in this podcast. So thank you very much for that. It totally makes sense. And I was actually thinking that also with makeup, you can also go to like gluttony, and not because of eating, because it's like you already have enough. Probably you already
Right.
have enough makeup, but you want more. You can't fill your bathroom with enough makeup, so you just like keep
And the
buying
flip
and buying.
side of that, in some cases, is also virtue. Like there are some buyer segments who are actually into minimalism. They want multitasker makeups. So basically, one lipstick that can actually act as your blush, and then it acts as your eyeshadow. So basically, it is a multitasker makeup, and that particular community is all about it. They feel virtuous about it. They feel that they are not wasting money and resources. If you are in that space, make sure that all of your packaging, in any case, make sure that all of your packaging is biodegradable and it is sustainable. But if you are in that space, make triply sure that your
Yes.
packaging is like biodegradable and sustainable. And I know
Mm.
personally of a brand where it is a minimalistic makeup brand, and what they do is actually they have all of their makeup in this paper that you, after you have kind of like taken the makeup out, you can dig it, like you can literally bury it, and seeds, like it has seeds and plants
Yeah.
grow out of it. So basically, do that. Like once you identify what ticks your buyers, there are different things that you can do about your entire marketing mix, about the packaging part of it, that really helps you reaffirm that, like solidify that particular, let's say, that particular brand that you want to present.
All right. I love that. Perfect. So I'm gonna try that now with my brands. I'm gonna focus on the sins. Okay. So now that we've stated that, like some tips on how to do it and why it's important, uh, how does this connect to demand generation? So I know that there's we have focused for a very long time just in pay-per-click campaigns, like superficial campaigns. Maybe throughout those years we got some of the low-hanging fruit, with like the easiest
We
clients.
captured demands. Yeah, we captured
Exactly.
demand in that sense.
We capture demand, and I think, for example, Google is great for that, and some of the pay-per-click campaigns are great for that. But now, if we want to get to the next level, we have to generate it. So can you tell us a bit of how these both concepts connect?
Yeah, so demand gen is something that you hear a lot about in the B2B community, but it also applies to the B2C community. We just don't think of it in that terms, because in B2C, the average order value is way smaller than the average contract value. Like the
Of
AOV
course.
is always less than the ACV. That is why the buyer's cycle is compressed into probably a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, if obviously you are not buying a Porsche, that is. So the
Yeah.
buyer's cycle gets compressed into a couple of minutes to a couple of seconds. But all of the factors that apply in traditional B2B also apply in B2C. For example, like in the first moment, you have to catch their attention. You have to make yourself memorable. You have to make yourself memorable with B2C as well. Then after that, you need to educate them about something, right? If they are facing a problem, you have to educate them. If your buyer's segment, if your product is something really generic, like a toothpaste, this is where you educate on the basis of your USP. So you can even reframe, you can show people that there is a better way to do things, which in B2B parlance, we call category creation. So basically toothpastes, and then you have a subcategory of that, toothpaste with salt. Like that's pretty like I think it's pretty commonplace nowadays, but when it first came out, everybody was like, oh, I need to get a toothpaste with salt so that my gums are really good. And then you have all of these all-in-one toothpastes, which don't even not only look at your teeth, they also look at your gums. So these are basically just different ways of positioning that. Since it's a very a DTC or a B2C product is not as complex in the as a B2B product or service, that positioning or that category creation is way easier. You just have to reframe people. You have to put the spotlight on a problem they already have, because you know they are using the stuff that is in the older category. It is not catering to this specific problem. And you know that the specific problem exists. And that is one of the starting points of how you show them expertise. So you tell them like, hey, we know that you are probably not even aware that you have this specific problem, but I'm pretty sure you're seeing the symptoms, aka bleeding gums. So that is why this particular thing that we have created, this formulation with the salt, it's going to really, take care of your gums. It's going to make sure all of the germs in your mouth die properly. So now you are educating with expertise.
Okay.
From now, yeah, then you have to again answer their objections. For example, in the B2B setting, you have like multi-threading. There are so many stakeholders involved with buying the product. In this case as well, there are stakeholders. It might be just one person pulling the trigger, but that person is thinking about their wife probably. That person is, at the very least, they are thinking about how other people will perceive them with this product. Even themselves, their stakeholders might be, another version of themselves. Oh, I wake up in the morning, I look at the mirror and my teeth look all yellow and, like I hate it. So basically they are thinking about, it is a part of them. That is a stakeholder that you have to get on board. So you have to address their objections. And finally, you have to show them that you are better, not objectively better, but specifically better, with proof, with social proof as well as expertise proof for the specific problem that you have convinced them that they have, which is basically, like bleeding gums, and you need a toothpaste that has sodium chloride in it. So this is where you kind of address how they are thinking about it. So you have your competitors in this arena, alternatives. They can either be another toothpaste brand, or they can be the status quo, which is I'm not going to do anything, or it can be something completely different, like oil pulling. Probably they may not be using toothpaste, maybe they are relying on just oil pulling, and oil pulling is getting rid of all of the germs, but it's not doing anything for the brightness of the teeth. So basically, these are all different things that you have to take into account. And this is kind of, in a very, let's say, simplified way, the demand gen journey for DTC slash B2C with respect to B2B. Like this is how the sections stack up.
Yeah, no, but totally that can be applied with B2C without a problem. Yeah, I understand that this concept it was like developed more for B2B and for services and for educate and nurture your leads, but it totally applies to B2C as well.
And if you think of it this way, you stop being so tactics reliant. You start thinking of your strategy, right? PPC is a tactics. It's
exactly.
not a strategy. It's part of a larger strategy, which involves your branding, your positioning. How are you going to approach people? How are you going to generate demand? That's why I really love the concept of demand gen, not just because it's the hottest thing right now, but it actually forces you to set a strategy instead of just, kind of depending on random tactics that you do one time and then you forget about it. Or even if you do it consistently, you don't have a why behind it.
Yeah, there's no follow up, there's no depth. It's very superficial, and maybe like you said, you maybe you tickle something, but then if you don't follow up, it just wears away, and you don't get to the point where the customer actually desires something, desires your product, or considers it at least, right? Okay, I love the framework. And just to go a little bit back for I really like what you said with let's say with your cold traffic ads or content. So when you're reaching new traffic, you have to make yourself memorable. Have you found that it's better to focus, let's say, on the problem, on the solution, on something like out of the box and super creative? So for example, bleeding gums, so you focus on the problem, or you healthy gums, you focus on the solution. Like, have you found that there's a difference between them, or it's more how creative you are?
So this cannot be answered like on a generic basis. This is very case by case. So you have to understand what your particular like audience segment is focused on, what your buyers are focused on. There might be granular segments there within that, where one segment is focused on the benefits, the other is focused on the pain. But across the board, if you have no research on like your customers and you don't have the money or the time to do that, you're just getting started, start by helping them feel better. Start by helping them feel better. And second thing, nostalgia works like a charm. This is specifically if you are talking to an older demographic, but doesn't matter. You can apply nostalgia to Gen Z, Gen Y, all of the gens out there as well. So people always look at their past in most cases as being better than their present, and definitely better than their future. So what I have found is a very cheap trick to do this is to make them optimistic about their future by helping them reminisce about their past and get the good feelings in the past. So for example, if you are a makeup company that caters to older women, you tell them like, hey, you're going to get that suppleness of your eyelashes or that plumpness of your mouth. You're going to get that going forward. So that was 30 years ago, but you're going to get that 5 months from now. So your future is bright. And what does it look like? It looks like a throwback of your past.
Okay. I love it. All right. So to sum that up, we first need to, let's say, capture their attention. And you mentioned some tips, and then once you have their attention, then we need to educate first of all. Okay. But when normally when I say educate, people think that that we're doing a class, but it's not necessarily a class. You can share valuable information in an entertaining way with memes, with
absolutely.
Exactly, right? And another important thing that you said, answer their objections. So when we make someone consider a product or a problem they have or a solution they're looking for, normally they have like 30 questions or 300 questions, I don't know. So, but we can focus on the first 30 questions that they probably have in their heads. You probably know, if you're an expert, you know that, okay, they are wondering this and A, B, C, D. So with your content, you can address to those objections and give them piece by piece. Don't try to give everything in just one post.
Yeah,
Take your time.
absolutely. Take your time, diversify, make sure that you're going across multimedia. So text, video, like you said, memes, audio clips. I don't know, very unpopular opinion. I don't like podcasts. I personally don't learn from podcasts. So make sure that you have something for people who don't like podcasts in that
Of
sense.
course.
You can
You're more
have snippets.
visual?
Yes, I'm more visual. I
Of
like
course.
the way I learn is from my peers. So, for example,
Okay.
LinkedIn is the best learning platform that I know of for me personally. There are
Okay.
other people who, in this, like a more frivolous setting or a less formal setting, would probably do the same from Meta or Instagram. So, make sure that you have people they trust talking about your products. Doesn't have to be huge influencers, doesn't have to be micro influencers, can be nano influencers. And I
Yeah.
have found that nano influencers give a better ROI because even micro influencers these days charge a lot of money.
Yeah, totally. And normally the nano their audience is actually ultra compatible
Absolutely.
with your brand. Okay, so you have to focus on that. All right.
And you can
So
sometimes find nano influencers in your buyers. Like I have seen this happen so many
yeah,
times. Somebody like reached out and said, "Hey, I love your product." You go in there and they see that they have 3,000 followers. Awesome, game on. You send them a beautiful package, tell them nice things, give them some swag, invite them over to your head office if they're nearby, and then you have a relationship. You don't need to make it necessarily about advertising. It can be relationship building, and I prefer personally for it to be relationship building that way.
yeah, it's more long term. Okay, so uh, make sure that you educate and answer the objections through multiple media, okay, and
Mhm.
formats also, not text, long format text, short format text, images,
and
uh,
test everything. Like
test
this is
everything
just the
exactly.
starting. It's the starting
Yeah,
point. Then you will automatically find stuff to test. You will find that, oh, I don't know, like I'm talking to this particular group in this specific voice, but I have seen that the reviews they talk differently. So let me try and use some of the words from the reviews and then rewrite this particular product page. See how that works. A/B test that, see how where that goes. Very silly little example. Obviously A/B testing is way more powerful than that, but this is just a very quick way to have some decent wins for your brand.
yeah, that's you'll see if you pay enough attention, you'll see the patterns. For example, in this same brand with the nootropics, we asked for photo reviews of their
Mm-hmm.
products, and we told them nothing. We don't give any instructions. We just said we appreciate if you can send us a review with a photo. And all of a sudden, every person was taking the photo of the bottle of the pills in front
Mm-hmm.
either of a keyboard, a laptop, a book, with some notes. So
Right.
and then everybody started doing that. I'm like, okay, so let's create the ads with that
Like
same
that.
aesthetics and
Yeah.
with that same stuff.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. I get it. And the language also, it becomes a pattern, right? So you just need
Yeah.
to observe. Okay, and
And
then
all of this that we are talking about, very important. This is if you would go through this much of mental aerobics if you don't have any customers. Like this is basically for brands starting out, brands with few to no customers, brands who have a difficult time getting to their customers. If you can access your customers either in a one-on-one setting or in surveys or even through reviews, there is nothing better than that. That plus testing is definitely a surefire way to grow your brand. In the absence of these two things, that's when you have to do a lot of mental aerobics. You have to understand where they come from, their journey, this, that. But if you just have like some customer feedback and testing, that's it. Like the customer feedback is needed to feed your testing roadmap. That is why it's needed. So have customer feedback, testing, forget about everything else. You will find that up to a certain point, you will grow without even strategy. After that, obviously, you need to consider your unit economics. You need to consider what retention as well as lifetime value is looking like. That comes later. Have an understanding of that. But if you nail these two things I have seen in front of my eyes, you can grow to 7, even 8 figures pretty comfortably.
Awesome, awesome. All right. So, and then just to remind of the last tips you gave us is that once you already educate them and answer their objections, you have to show them why you are specifically better, not objectively, but why actually you're better with facts or with social proof, right? And
Yes.
that's basically the whole journey
There are a couple of ways you can do that. You can either commission research yourself, which is super expensive. I don't recommend anyone doing
yeah.
that. But if you have the data in house, you can do that relatively easier. You can be the expert yourself. For example, in case of supplement companies, it's super helpful if one of the founders is a subject matter expert. If it is a YOLO kind of a brand, like your life or your money, you need
Yeah.
to have an expert in-house that is kind of non-negotiable. Either you yourself are the expert or you bring it on. And then for the rest of the brands, it is pretty simple, like you did, like you gave a very good example, and we have done this as well. We have bought research. We were researching when we were creating the product, and we referenced this research, and then we went ahead and we bought it. We purchased that research. We kind of gave it to a technical writer to parse through it, to simplify it, and to just point by point map each of our claims to why we did it. Like it is a real clear mapping of, yeah, this is the scientific reason, this is why we put this claim, and then you map that to your bleeding neck problem of your buyers. So you can have this document ready, and that in and of itself would be the pillar of your expertise. You won't need to do much unless and until you gather enough data to commission your own research.
Awesome. All right. I I think we can wrap it up so people can meditate through all of the information that you dropped. It's super valuable. I took a lot of notes. So
Great.
thank you very much for that. And well, I think maybe in a couple more episodes further we can continue this, because I can tell that you love it. I can tell that's where the sweet spot is, right? So we can continue to go
Absolutely.
going a little deeper or further down the road.
Yeah, expertise building is something that I really take seriously, because I've seen it working. And like for the next couple of years, the better decisions you help people take with the more confidence, the better your brand will fare.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again for your time and for your knowledge. And I'll hope I see you again shortly.
Absolutely, Pancho. Take care.
Take care. Well, there you have it. For me, this was like a masterpiece of, or a masterclass maybe of demand generation and expertise. I really hope you enjoyed it as well as I did. So again, thank you very much for your time. Remember that we also in Convert.com, we have a very large blog and a lot of content, webinars, articles, everything you need to become an expert as well in CRO and in testing and in expertise and in branding. There's a ton of resources there. So go head to Convert.com and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks again.